Don't you know what you're talking about? People don't understand what you're talking about. I don't understand what you're talking about. So the guys say know what you're talking about. What you talking about? Don't know what you're talking about. People don't understand what you're talking about. When what you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Don't know what you're talking about. People don't understand what you're talking about. For the Mexican know what you're talking about. Talking about. Don't know what you're talking about. Don't understand what you're talking about. But understand and know what you're talking about. Talking about. Understand know what you're talking about. People don't know what you're talking about. Then don't know what you're talking about. Talking about. Don't know what you're talking about. Don't know what you're talking about. But people don't understand you're talking about. Talking about. Don't know what you're talking about. Just so you know what you're talking about. People don't understand what you're talking about. Talking about. Talking about. Don't understand talking about. People don't understand what you're talking about. Talking about. Don't know what you're talking about. People don't understand you know what you're talking about. Don't understand you know. Talking about. Talking about. Talking about. They didn't understand. You know about that talking about. Talking about. Don't understand you talking about when you're listening, you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Understand you're talking about. Cause then the way you're talking about, we understand you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Don't understand you're talking about. People don't understand you're talking about when you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Don't understand you're talking about. Doesn't make no sense what you're talking about. Must you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Understand you're talking about. People don't understand what you're talking about till you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Talking about. Don't know what you're talking about, but people don't understand you're talking about. Talking about. Just don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about, but the people don't understand you're talking about. Talking about. Talking about. Talking about. Understand what you're talking about. People don't understand what you're talking about, but you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Don't say you know what you're talking about. People don't understand what you're talking about when you don't you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Just so you know what you're talking about. People don't know what you're talking about when people don't know what you're talking about. Talking about. Talking about. But still you know what they're talking about. For the next thing you need what you're talking about. Talking about. Talking about. People understand what you're talking about. For the best thing you know what you're talking about. Talking about. Talking about. Talking about.